To me, I love function questions. They're really, really easy, in my opinion, right? But you're probably saying, well, every topic easy for me. All right, so, but even though, and all the questions, they are past paper questions, but whenever I get the opportunity to modify a question after we do a question to make it harder, I will do that, right? So we get some extra practice. So everyone get started with this question and send the answer on the chat. Let's see this question here. So F7. So it's F and in brackets, you have the 7. So since the 7 is in the brackets, remember you work backwards with functions. So we are already going to be visiting F. And we're going to substitute 7 into it. Which means when we go to this equation, this fx equation, wherever you see the letter x, you are to replace it with the number 7. And I just simplify it. So it's 5. Look, the x here. And when you replace something, you have to put it in brackets, right? Now, it's whenever you have a huge divide sign like this, right? Like you have a whole set of things on top and one item underneath. It's really not a good idea to type in the whole thing on the calculator. The best thing to do is work out the top first and write down the answer. So 7 by 5 is what? 35. 35 minus 4 is 31. And then we divide it by what? 3. So this will give us 10 and 1/3, or I see some of you all put 10.33, right? The examiner, since 1/3 is a recurring fraction and a real common one that you learned in form in primary school, I think you should put the 1/3. Okay, right. So 1 second, guys. Right. So I want to change up this question now, and I want to show you all how it's going to look different, right? You see how this question is F7, right? If I have Fx, and now I put it equal to 7, and the instructions are different to solve for x. So this question is slightly different now. See if we can do this question if I modify it and make it look like that. So let me put a little spacer here. So this time the 7 is not in the brackets. In fact, the 7 is on the other side of the equal sign. So what they want you to do is take the expression they gave you for fx, which is 5x minus 4 divided by 3. And this is equal. They want you to put this equal to 7. And they want you to solve for x. Now, it's going to end up being a cross multiplication question because 7 is the same thing as 7 divided by 1. So you can just do what? Cross multiply. Now, since a few weeks now, even though you have to cross multiply to make life easier for you, you should cross multiply the one that has the letter that you are trying to solve for. So we should cross multiply this diagonal first because this one contains the x. Anything multiplied by 1 is itself. And 7 by 3 is 21. Let's quickly solve for x. Throw across minus 4. You will get positive 4. So I continue working here, right? So 5x is equal to 25 because 21 plus 4 is 5. We want to solve for x. 5 is a multiply, throw it across, you get what? A divide. 25 divided by 5 is 5. Yeah, so 5 was the answer, not 8.333333. Right? For those who got it wrong, you think you saw your mistake? Did it change? Yes, it changed. All right. Great. So A part 2, they want you, if you can't see it properly, this is F minus 1. Remember, F minus 1 means what? Inverse. All right. So let's see if you guys are correct. So whenever you're finding the inverse of a function and they want us to find the inverse of f, what you want to do in the exam is write back the exact fx function, right? So fx is what? 5x minus 4 divided by what? 3. I didn't change anything. I wrote the same exact thing. Remember, fx is basically the same thing as y. So you could throw away the fx and put what in its place to make it look a little bit nicer. Y. That is what you can do. When you do that, the next step is to switch x and y. Well, what does this mean? This means that anywhere you see the letter y, it will magically change to what? X. And anywhere you see the letter X, it will magically change to what? Y. So let's do that switch. I'll use a different color here. I'll use blue. This Y will change to what? X. And this X is changed to what? Y. Now, when you do that, right, up here, who is the subject? Y is the subject. Now, obviously, when you make this switch, when the y changes to x and the x changes to y, who is the subject now? X is now the new subject of the formula. The next step now is to make back y the subject. It's to make back y the subject. How are we going to do that? We only really have one choice. We're going to have to cross what? Multiply. So remember, x is the same thing as x on 1. To make, I want you all to let me know, which diagonal are we going to cross multiply first? The solid line or the dashed line? To make life easier for us, which one should we cross multiply first in this particular situation? Right? Annalise, correct. Right, Carissa, I'll take one more answer. Which is the correct one to? Okay, so it's a kind of trick question. Which letter are we trying to make the subject? Y. Y is the letter of interest. Usually it is BX. But today, we're trying to make back Y the subject. So you should cross multiply the solid one, because that one has the letter Y in it. Anything by 1 is itself, right, equal to multiply the dashed one. X multiplied by 3 is 3x. We want to make back who the subject? Y. Throw across -4, you're going to get +4. And then this 5 is a multiplier. Throw him across. You divide the whole thing by 5. So when we make y the subject, we get y is equal to 3x plus 4 divided by 5. Once you made back y the subject, you have accomplished your task. And now you can throw away the y and replace it with f inverse x. So the last line here is what you want to put for the examiner. This here is the inverse of x. And in fact, all the answers I saw were correct. So that's good news. For those who got it wrong, take down all the working properly. Right? Right. And if you can't remember the topic, remember, you probably, well, obviously exams is coming up for a lot of you, so you probably need to revise, every once in a while. Go back to the videos in September, go back to the videos in October, or you can just go back to your notes, right? And just refresh your memory. Right, now look at this one. They want you to write an expression for FGX, and it has no numbers in it. It doesn't even have a number in the brackets, or even an equal sign and a number waiting on the other side. So good luck with this one, and you will not get a number for your answer. You will get an expression for it. Good luck. Remember, functions, you always work backwards. Like, remember when we had this question at the beginning of class, F7, well, once it's in the brackets, right, and it doesn't have an equal sign and a number on the other side, well, what we do is we take the 7 and we work backwards. So we put 7 into what? F. That was the first question we did. If we had G5, I just saying if we had G5, right? That's not the question on the screen. This would just simply mean we would take 5 and put it into where? G. So we will go to the expression with G, and any way where, sorry, we saw the letter X, we would throw away the letter X and replace it with 5. And of course, when you do a replacement in maths, you always put it in brackets. So I just saying it would look something like this. It will be 5 squared minus 1. You see, I just threw away this X and I replaced it with whatever was in the brackets. Quick question. If I said find Gx, remember, it have X in the brackets here. It doesn't have a number. Doesn't make sense. No, sorry, you can view it the same way. You can work backwards. You can put X into what? G. But should we waste time doing a question like that? What sense does it make to throw away X and then replace it back with X? And we would just end up with the same exact thing, and we would end up with X squared minus what? 1 by throwing away X and then replacing it back with X. It's like you're doing something that you're wasting time, in other words. Why am I mentioning this, right? Let's look at the question they gave us. It's FGX. Now, a lot of the times, they will leave out the X in the question, but today they put it in. If they ask you to put if they ask you to find, sorry, FGX, we still work backwards, right? We're going to put X into what? G, and whatever you get, you're going to put it into what? F. You continuously work backwards. If I put X into G, it won't make a difference, right? I will just get what? X squared minus 1. So I replace this with X squared minus 1, because when I put X into G, I get back this expression. But now we have to continue working backwards. This new answer we got, we have to throw that into what? F. So we're going to go to F now, and wherever we see X, we're going to throw away X and replace it with X squared minus 1. So FGX will actually be this. Let's go here. You have a 5. Let's throw away Mr. X and replace it with X squared minus 1 minus 4 divided by 3. Notice I just went to F. Wherever I saw Mr. X, I threw him away and replaced him with GX, which was this expression. Now, you can't leave the answer like that for the examiner. You have to try your best to simplify this, right? Multiply everyone in the brackets by 5. 5 by x squared is 5x squared. 5 by minus 1 is minus 5. You have a minus 4 waiting here. He's not in the brackets. Divided by 3. Let's simplify it up. Minus 5 minus 4 is minus 9. And then we divide it by 3. This is your answer. This is FGX. That's this guy here. Right? So checking through the answers. 1 or 2 people got it wrong, right? For those who got it wrong, you think you saw your mistake? So anytime you see a reddish or pinkish background, that's a section 2 question. Last week I explained when it's a green background, it's a section 1 question, right? So this question falls under consumer arithmetic. Good luck, and well, send your answers as usual. So the interest is, the principal is how much she planned to borrow in the first place. So she goes to the bank and said, hey, I want $2,500. They say, all right, that's called the principal. So they give you the $2,500 to spend. But when it's time to repay them now, you're going to have to pay more than $2,500. The rate is 12. And T is time. Time is always in years. So if when case here is just 2 years, so you just put 2 divided by 100. So let's see how much we have here. 2,500 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 2 divided by 100. I did something wrong here. 2,500 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 2. Now, my interest when I work this out is $600, right? Now, I think some of you all read the question a little bit wrong. Let's read through this. The sum of money which she will have to repay the bank at the end of the 12 years. Tell me something. If somebody borrows $2,500 from you and they give you $600, how are you going to feel about that? You're not going to feel too good, right? Right? Remember, the 600 is the interest. We calculated the interest. They want to know how much she has to pay the bank. She has to pay the bank, sorry, we use the word amount. Let me write it out for the examiner. The amount you're going to have to pay the bank is the $2,500 you borrow. You obviously have to give back that, plus the extra of 600. And the answer for this is what? Oh Lord, for some reason I can't add this in my head. Isn't it 3,100? Guys, a lot of people got this wrong. You're not going to include the 200. Remember, the day you walked into the bank, you gave them 200. That you gave them that in order to get the process rolling to even get the money borrowed, right? So the final answer for part one is to the 100, right? Right, so I'm glad I did it. Even though I would consider this a simple question, I'm glad we did it because a lot of people did get it wrong, which means a lot was learned from it, right? Wrong. Remember, the bank lent us $2,500, right? So that's how much the bank lent us. How much did we have to repay? Remember, we had to repay how much in all? $3,100, right? So when we went back at the end of the 2 years, we gave them $3,100. Now the bank, let's pretend this is the bank man here, right? He's smiling, right? Because he lent you $2,500 and then you gave him back $3,100. How much extra dollars did he get? How much extra dollars did he get? 600, right? Because if you minus these two values, right? Obviously, the bigger number is supposed to be on top, right? He got an extra $600. This is how much extra he got, right? Of course, he's laughing evilly, right? Because he made some extra money on you. But he actually made more than $600, you know. Didn't you on the first day give him $200 to what? Get the ball rolling? So he actually made how much extra money on you? You can't forget that $200. No, you cannot forget it. The extra he made was $800, right? And this is a real thing in banks. Eh? You always have like a processing fee or something to get the ball rolling. So to convert this to a percentage, because I ask you for a percent, you're going to take the 800 divided by something. We'll decide what this something is. And to convert anything to a percent, you multiply by 100%, right? The question is, what goes underneath here? Do we put the 100 or the 2,500? Which one do we put when we're expressing something as a percentage? Do we put the original amount borrowed, right? Or the amount repaid at the end? Which is the correct one when you're converting something to a percentage? Original value or the new value? It's always the original value. So it's the 2,500 that has to go here. right? The only time the new value will go here, like the only time you would put 3,100 is if the examiner says in the question, express the profit percent as the of gain on the amount being repaid. Like the only way we could put 3,100 underneath here is if the examiner says in the question to use the underneath value as 3,100. But whenever they don't mention that, it's always the original first value. So what is the correct answer now, right? 800 divided by 2,500, it's 32%. So for those who got 32%, well done. Even if you got it wrong, once you understand your mistake, take it as a win. That once again, you don't have to take down the question, right? Just make a mental note. The class is being fully recorded. You can always review it at any point in time. All right. So I think there's a part 3 to this question. Part 3. Good luck. Remember the amount that Pamela has to repay is the 3,100, right? She doesn't have to repay the $200, right? That was just given on the first day. She has to make 24 equal payments. So you just literally divided this by 24. I don't know why this question is so easy, but let's not complain, right? 3,100 divided by 24 is how much? $129.07. If you have to round off the 2 decimal places properly, huh? So $129.17. So I think we finished with that question. I think the background is now going to change to pink. So this is a section 2 question now. And this should be fresh in everyone's head. We only did this 2 weeks ago, right? Turn back to your notes and see if you can find the values of A, H, and K, right? Let's see. Express the quadratic as, in this, we call this vertex form, right? So whoever touching x squared is A, whoever touching x is B, and the item without x is what? C. It's just a matter of memorizing the formulas, right? To calculate A, well, A is just literally A, right? So A over here is supposed to be 3. That one is easy. To calculate H, it's minus B on 2A. And to calculate K, it's 4AC minus open brackets B squared divided by 4A. I have deliberately made a mistake. Who can tell me what the mistake is? And I deliberately did it because I know from watching the answers here, a lot of people made the mistake. What is the mistake? Something is wrong with one of my formulas there. Right. To calculate the H value, it doesn't have a minus sign by the B, right? I remember when I was teaching this topic, I said that somewhere in this topic, there is a formula with a minus sign touching the B. There is a formula, but it's not exactly, no, it's required, right? It's not exactly this formula. Right? So I know I made special mention about that. So let's just substitute in the values now, and then let's see what happens here. Right? We have A, B, and C upstairs here. So B is how much? 6. So it's just 6 divided by 2. And how much is A? A is 3. Right? 2 by 3 is 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So H is what? 1. Right? So we know that for sure, right? Just writing it down so I don't forget. Right. So let's calculate the K value now. Yeah, different color, red. 4 open brackets. A is 3. C is minus 2 minus B is how much? 6 squared divided by 4, and A is how much? 3. I remember when I was teaching this, I told you not to type in this whole thing straight on the calculator, which is what I realized some people did. This is too complex for a calculator to handle in one shot. Work out the top by itself, write down the answer. Work out the underneath, write down the answer, and then divide. For the top, I got minus 60. And for the underneath, 4 by 3 is 12. So I'm getting what? Minus 5. For the persons who got minus 5, you all had it correct. Now you're going to write your answer like this, right? You have to put A, H, and K in its positions. So it's 3 open brackets, x plus 1. This is your H value. Don't forget Mr. Squared here. And K is minus 5. I know it have a positive sign here, but if K is minus 5, when a positive touches a negative, you're ultimately going to get a negative. This is the answer. For those who got it wrong, you think you saw your mistakes, look at my working and just confirm it with me that you saw your mistakes. Right. Find the minimum value of fx. So let's put back the answer we had from the previous slide. From the previous slide, when we expressed it in vertex form, we got 3x plus 1 squared minus 5. You can actually use this to figure out the minimum value of fx. Remember, this is a quadratic. And if you look at this quadratic, the A value is a positive value. 3 is positive. So that means if you were to draw this graph, right? This quadratic on a piece of graph paper, you would actually, what shape graph would you get? Would you get a smiley face or a sad face? Go back in the notes, don't guess. Go back in the notes. Whenever A is a positive value, A is positive 3. Do you get a smiley face? I'm asking whether you're going to get a smiley face or you're going to get a sad face. Look back in the notes, look back in the notes. Some of you all are guessing, you didn't go back in the notes to look for it, right? Whenever A is positive, you get a smiley face. If A is negative, you will get a sad face. So your graph would be something like this. If you were to draw it on graph paper, a smiley face has a lowest point. The lowest point is called the minimum point. Now, a minimum point has an x coordinate and a y coordinate. And just for the time being, use this now to figure out what? The minimum point. The minimum point. Whenever you have a quadratic expressed in vertex form, right? Keep your eyes on two things. The value outside separated from the brackets. In other words, the H value. No, this is the K value, sorry. And the value inside, which is the H value. The minimum point, the X coordinate, is always the opposite of the H value. So if your H value is positive 1, then X is minus 1. The Y value is the value of K. But for the Y value, the K value, you don't actually make that one the opposite. You just take that one as it is. So it's minus what? 5. So like I said, this is the X coordinate and this is the Y coordinate. In some textbooks, the minimum point, they just write it like this. Minus HK. Minus H. Whenever you see a minus sign before something, that means make it the opposite. And anytime in maths you put a minus sign in front of something, it is always make it the mathematically opposite value. So minus H means take the opposite of the H value, but the K has no minus sign according to the formula in a lot of textbooks. So you take the K value as it is. You do not make that one the opposite. However, whenever they ask you for the minimum value, they didn't ask you for the minimum coordinates. If they said minimum coordinates, they want the x and the y. But whenever they say minimum value of fx, they only want the y value. So the official answer for this question is the y value, which is -5. Now I know what you're saying. If you put both answers for the examiner, that seems like you doing him a favor and you're giving him more information. You will get it wrong. Because by putting both answers, you didn't interpret the question correct. So know the difference between a minimum value, which means the y coordinate only, and minimum coordinates, which means both x and y. Right? So it's a little tricky in the exam now. I don't feel too bad. Almost everybody gets this particular one wrong because of the grammar in the question. All right. All right, so let's get ready to move on. If you only put the x value, but that's even worse, right? If you put only the x value, remember, the minimum value means they want the y value only, right? They definitely don't want the x value, and they definitely don't want both. They only want the y. Right, so let's move on. State the equation of the axis of symmetry, right? I gave you all this one. Nobody's supposed to get this one wrong. We did like we had a big discussion about this. Let me write back this in blue text form. I think this was it. Right. The equation of the line of symmetry or the axis of symmetry, the same exact thing. Now, they're asking for the equation of the axis of symmetry. This was the formula that I had given you. X is equal to minus b divided by 2a. But when you use, this is the one with the minus sign for the axis of symmetry. But whenever you use this formula, you will always get the opposite of h, opposite of the number in the brackets, right? But when you're stating the axis of symmetry, you have to put x, you have to physically write x, equal sign. And of course, the opposite of positive one is -1. If you just put -1, it's wrong. It's the equation is x is equal to -1. Right? For those who, well, I think almost everybody got it wrong, right? So for those, so everybody, you think you understand it now? If you go back in your notes, you will see an exact example like this one, where we have stated the formula and where you had to write the letter X, and if you don't write it, you will get it wrong. That is the last. Oh, unfortunately, I have a sketch to do now. Now, when you say do a sketch, right? Yeah, obviously you're not using graph paper, right? You're just using a ruler. You're drawing a makeshift X and Y axis. Right. Oh, by the way, do we have the minimum point? How much was the minimum point again? The minimum point was how much? -1 -5, right? So we have the answer for this one already. It's just you have to figure out A, right? And then do a sketch, and you should be good. Let me know when you are finished. Remember, the C value, right? Remember, this is A, this is B in the quadratic, and this is C. C tells you the y-intercept, or where it cuts the y-axis. So C is -2, so it will cut the y-axis at -2. So if you had to do a quick sketch in the exam, right, you just take your ruler like this, draw a quick x and y axis. Let's do a 1, 2. Let's put down. Let's -1, -2, -3, -4, and -5, right? Here's -1, -2, -3. Remember, the minimum point was how much? -1, -5. -1 on the x, and you're going down to -5. That's the minimum point there. And where does it cut the y-axis? This is your y-axis. It will cut the y-axis at where? -2. And what shape is the graph supposed to be? Remember, we said it would be a smiley face because A is a positive value. So you just have to draw like a smiley face. The lowest point is here. So it loops down and then comes up and cuts the y-axis at -2. That is your sketch there. They didn't even ask you to figure out where it cuts the x-axis. They only wanted you to use these two pieces of information, right? So that's the sketch you wanted to do for the example. Right, so let me know who got it correct before me. All right, so I think the background is going to change to green now, which is mean this is a section 1 question. Good luck. And well, I don't think this one is too hard, but don't underestimate the question. Okay. All right. So let's say, let me make up my own question, right? So it have Tim here. So let's say Tim gets $200. Somebody gets he's getting $200 a week or something like that, whatever job it is. Let's say he gets a 25% raise, right? What will be his new pay? Right? Well, let me put him not so happy here because after he gets the raise, he will be happy. So after he gets the raise, he is happier. How much money will he get if he gets a 25% raise? Right? And I want to do the primary school way to show you the flaws, but not really the flaws, how the primary school way can be a little misleading. Right? So most people are saying it's $250, right? So let's see how you went about this. You would find what? 25% of how much? $200. So let's find 25% of $200. Let's see how much money that is. Because he's getting a 25% raise. He's getting 25% extra. So 25 divided by 100 multiplied by 200. $50. Okay? And so how much money he is going to be getting now? You're going to take this 50 and add it to the 200. So now he gets what? $250. The point is, when the value was supposed to get larger, you found 25% of it and you added it on. That was the normal what? Procedure, okay? Let's try this in reverse and see if it actually works in reverse. So let's say somebody now joins class, right? Somebody now joins class, and I erase all of this. And I tell them, hey, backtrack to see how much Tim got before the race. Now we know the answer is what, 200, right? But the new person who joined class doesn't know it's 200. All he knows is Tim is now getting $250, and that is after the 25% raise. So let's do it backwards. Let's find 25% of $250. Let's find 25% of 250. 25 divided by 100 multiplied by 250. I'm getting $62.50. Make sure you see that on a calculator. Okay? Make sure you physically see it on a calculator. Right. So common sense would say, to figure out how much Timmy had in the first place, you would take 250 and minus $62.50, right? If we did that, would we get back the $200? Well, what do you all think? We're not going to get back. Check it on the calculator. 250 minus 62.5. We get in $187.50. So we kind of see working the formula, the concept or the procedure works in the forward direction, but it doesn't really work in the opposite direction. So I know how much of you all made the Monday class when I was doing consumer arithmetic, right? How much of you all made that class? And we did this in a cross multiplication question. This question could be simplified to cross multiplication. Let me show you how to get back the original answer, right? And I want to show you both. I think let me do it both ways. So, but use cross multiplication. So Tim gets $200. All right. Here's what. The original amount of money, like before the raise or whatnot, is always considered 100%, the original amount you had. So the original amount he was getting was 100%. So let's draw the little cross here, right? We're going to put two things, money and percentage. Sorry, that's on money and percentage. At the beginning of the question, how much money he had? $200. Now, that's the original amount he had, always the before situation. And that's always 100%. It's always represented by 100. If he gets a raise, right? If he gets a raise of 25%, won't his new percentage be 125%? Because he had 100% and now he's getting what? An extra 25%. So his total percentage is 125. How much money is he getting now? We just have to cross multiply. So let's cross multiply here quickly. 100 by x is 100x. And 200 by 125, but that's a big number. I can't do that in my head. 200 multiplied by 125 is 225,000. This 100 is a multiply. Throw it across, you get a divide. So yes, we get how much? $250. So we see it works in what? The forward direction. But let's see if this works in the opposite direction. Now, let's see if we can get back the $200. So to do this question now, we start back here now. Let's draw the cross. We have $100 on percentage. We start off with $250, right? We start off with $250. Remember, this is after he got the raise. So this 250 is 125%. This 250 is 125%, because this is after the raise. We are trying to find the original amount, the amount he had in the first place. The original amount is always 100%. How much is that? Cross multiply now, solve for x, and tell me if you get back 200. Let me know, but physically do it. I don't assume you will get 200. Question now. Right, so let's go here. Money and percentage. Well, I don't even know what percentage here. Right. This year, Bob gets $260 a week from his work. This is 30% more than what he was getting previously. So this $260, is this after the 30% raise or before the 30% raise? From the grammar in this question, what does it suggest? Right, it's after. So Bob is currently getting $260, so he's pretty happy. But that was this 260 is represented by 130%, because this is his money, his pay, with the 30% extra included. So how much was he getting before? That is what the question is asking. How much he was getting before all this raise and whatnot happened would have been 100%, the original value. Put x here and cross multiply and solve for x, right? So you get 1 to the x is equal to 260 by this is 260. Solve for x quickly. Throw across that multiply, get your divide. Right, and you all should be seeing this on your calculator. 200. Right, so I'm glad we did this question, right? So